All right, let's get back into it and see what Nancy Grace has to say about what was going on with this alleged RICO. I don't know. Here we go. She's yelling.
It's been applied to police departments. Yeah. RICO has been applied and prosecuted police departments. And they certainly did not originate to do crime. Did they? No. But slowly they slipped into it and they were subjected to a RICO prosecution and the state won. So, you know what? I appreciate what you're doing, Tacopina. You're defending. That's what you're paid to do. But you're just dead wrong.
Well, look,
I'm not paid to defend him here. I actually chose not to defend him here, Nancy Grace. But I'm analyzing the law, and a jury is not going to be quick to accept bad boy entertainment.
Somebody's getting mad. You're going to turn red in the face and your eyes bulge out again.
Well, come on,
I can't
Nancy.
wait.
Nancy, come on.
At least my eyes move, Nancy. At least my eyes move. Relax. So let's not go into physical characteristics, okay? So listen. I'm just simply saying.
Okay, I'm not agreeing to that. Okay.
Dang, shots fired.
Harvey, you got it. That's what you wanted.
I gotta be honest with you.
My eyes bulging.
Somebody's getting mad.
I gotta be honest with you. Joe, let's just say that you're absolutely right. Let's just give that to you.
I'm not saying I am, Ashley.
But no. Hold it. I'm saying let's just, for parlor games, say that you're absolutely right. You have 12 people in that witness box who I think will feel a lot like me right now. Yesterday, I was almost in tears, and that takes a lot for me to feel like that. I've covered these cases for 38 years. I was almost in tears listening to one incident after the other of the most violent, despicable abuse and language and degradation, humiliation, extortion. I could list off all the 37 crimes, but I started to feel sick to my stomach about these real people, these kids who were paid $50,000, $60,000 a year, who developed like stress-related alopecia from the nerves and the frustration and the terror of working for this guy. So let's just say you're right.
Okay, but wait a minute, Ashley.
What does that have to do with RICO?
Hold on
a jury that's going to hate him and may just say, I don't give a you know what. If he's not totally technically guilty, he's got to go down.
But then what you're saying, Ashley, is they'll just ignore the law and they'll do what they want to do, and that's not a great outcome. But wait,
that happens.
Wait.
That's disgusting, man. We're just saying, well, just lock him up for something. No, lock him up for what he's guilty of. As disgusting as Diddy was, I didn't have a problem with Diddy, guys. You know why? Because I wasn't around him. I didn't have a problem with Diddy because I wasn't in his circle, because I wasn't trying to get close to Diddy, because I wasn't trying to be connected with Diddy. I wasn't a certain type of worker that was getting hired out by Diddy to do certain things. So no, it's just not he's a threat to society, lock him up. I wasn't trying to date Cassie back then, so I wasn't afraid of him blowing up my car. I wasn't a popular rapper and I wasn't afraid of him taking me out because of competition. Like, come on, man. This whole lock him up for something. No, the law has a job to do and they have a burden of proof for the reason. They have to do their job. And if the jury's just thinking like a lot of y'all are in the comments and a lot of y'all watching this video and this live stream right now are like, just lock him up for something. That's not the type of society I want to be in. The law needs to do its job or it's going to continue to put people at a disadvantage that don't maybe have the resources that a Diddy has, that don't have the resources that A$AP Rocky has, don't have the resources that a Karen Reed has to fight this. And Ashley, she's probably right. It's just hard to hear that this is the way things goes. And if they don't like the way you look, they don't like your music, they don't like how you sound, they don't like your skin color, they don't like something that you did, then they could just say, hey, oh, the law? Cool. I don't care. I don't want to live in that society.
Raise this because I think there is another element to racketeering that is really unusual in this case. With the Kid Cudi arson attack, with the Molotov cocktail, they started presenting evidence with an LAPD arson investigator, and they were trying to show that Diddy's associate did that. He never really connected the dots. But there is so much in this trial about Diddy got his people to kidnap somebody, to threaten somebody, to blow up somebody's car, to burglarize a house. In true racketeering, if this really is, and it's a crime organization, why isn't anybody else being prosecuted other than Diddy?
Great question.
They're starting at the top.
No.
Who
Did
got
they?
immunity?
Did they?
No,
No,
we don't know that
no.
others
We've
will
already
be.
heard two
No,
people.
not
I think, as
immunity.
Ash just
No.
said, two people have been granted immunity. And there is a thing such as unindicted co-conspirators. These co-defendants are now witnesses. They're being used to get Combs. And there's nothing wrong with that.
We've heard Cuddy's testimony. We have heard Cuddy's testimony.
No one has
Yes, they
cooperation
do.
agreements.
Joe, yes, they
No,
do. One of the
immunity-
assistants testified. He said,
No.
I was
He
granted
bought
immunity.
drugs. He got immunity because he purged drugs. That's not
Two
what we're talking
witnesses
about.
got
Exactly.
We're talking
immunity.
about a
That's also
hierarchy,
immunity.
like a lieutenant who'd be cooperating against his boss, saying, yes, we were part of an enterprise. I did wrong, but he did
The
wrong with me.
illegal acts
We're
that
not
he
talking about
committed
the
while
kid who was the
operating
assistant who bought
under the
drugs.
orders of Diddy, he was granted immunity for. So yeah, he got up on the
That's
stand,
immunity
and
because he
many of them have
bought
said, I'm
drugs.
Two
here,
of them.
and I don't want
We're
to
not
be.
talking, but yes, I understand. You're right, Ashley. But that's about purchasing drugs. What Harvey's
Exactly.
asking, I think, or even Nancy may have mentioned this, was about the people who get immunity for doing this are people who normally are the lieutenants, the underbosses, the assistants, the higher-ranking people in the conspiracy.
Joe,
There
I
is
think
no
that
one
you're
here.
holding,
There's no one who's
Joe,
the
you're
name.
They weren't
holding
here,
Sean
like
Combs
Kaplan.
to a very particular standard of what you are accustomed to racketeering looking like. Maybe here, in a traditional mafia, Goodfellas style enterprise. I think Nancy hit it on the head. There's kind of two levels of this operation. Sean Combs, the Emperor King Almighty himself, and minions, straight minions. He doesn't have.
Yeah, okay, maybe Cassie, the one who was setting up the freak offs and asking for them. Maybe they're right here because Cassie was involved in a lot of this criminal activity. His assistant, maybe not so much, but the people that were in there and were forced to do certain things, Cassie got $20 million, and they said, hey, just come tell your story.
A five-pronged tier system like some of the more sophisticated organizations I think you're referencing.
So, hey,
Except for the girlfriends.
I want to bring in Mia. We talked about her. She is one of Diddy's ex-assistants. She is alleged victim number 4. Her name isn't really Mia. She got anonymity. The judge has made it clear to everybody in the courtroom, do not in any way divulge her identity. She testified about what she says was Diddy's conduct involving rape against her, various forms of other sexual assaults, brutalizing her. I thought this was interesting. She said, this is a quote, I believe that Puff's authority was above the police. I think that's a pretty stunning statement. Here's what I don't understand. I'm going to bring Brian in right now. To me, Brian is our TMZ producer who's been in the courtroom. To me, I feel like the prosecution's hopscotching between the domestic violence against various people and the threats against individuals from, the Kid Cudi or the Capricorn testimony about racketeering. That Mia, to me, should have gone right after Cassie, because that's kind of the picture they're painting with that kind of sexual abuse. But it feels like the prosecution is just going all over the place and the story's fragmented.
Well, Maureen Comey had said in court that there were scheduling issues and they had to fly people across the country to get them here back and forth. But you're right, Harvey. It does feel like they're all over the place. But in the latest batch of testimony on Mia, it was heartbreaking. I mean, here is this woman on the stand. She's got a tissue in one hand. Her makeup is running down her face. She can barely speak. She's talking about what she called the most shameful thing of my life. And she's whispering as she's getting out the fact of she was forced to have oral sex. I mean, the question, she couldn't even say the word penis. The prosecutor had to say, did you put Mr. Combs' penis in your mouth? Yes, she whispered. It was grueling. It was heartbreaking. And the jury, I'm sitting there looking at him, New York poker face. No reaction.
New Yorkers are tough, man.
But I looked over at Diddy as all this is happening, and he kind of looks down, and we saw him do this. And then he looked at the jury. So it was very, very heavy.
So, Brian, on Friday, the prosecution actually was the one that raised this, that Mia got a settlement from Diddy of several $100,000. She had asked for $10 million. and they had a private mediation for this.
Really?
And in that mediation, she never brought up sexual assault or rape. And it seems the prosecution tried to get in front of this so the defense wouldn't raise it. But the intimation here is clear that what the prosecutors are worried about is that the jury might believe that the sexual assault claims were made up after the fact. She says it's something she never even wanted to deal with, which is why she never mentioned it in the mediation. How was that received?
Well, in the courtroom, everybody was surprised that the ask was such a big number, $10 million. But the result, once the attorneys got their cut, whittled down to a little over $200,000. And she had said in court that she planned to take the information on the sexual abuse to her grave. It's not something she ever wanted to talk about. It was such an interesting day on Friday as we were looking through Mia's social media history, what she was posting on her Instagram feed way back when, a very smiling, happy, proud time to be associated with Sean Combs, the exact same time that Brian Steele contended she was telling the jury that she was living in terror.
I just wanted to make the point, Brian, and thank you for breaking all of that down because you did have eyes on this very compelling witness. When the prosecutors asked her a question that normally I think would be a very bad fact setup for the prosecution, did you actually tell Sean Combs no? And Mia, in that very whispered, fragile voice you described, Brian, says, I didn't feel I could. I didn't feel I could tell him no about a sandwich even. I think that kind of goes to a level of force and innate coercion and never feeling free to say no that is going to be very important for the prosecution to make the case.
Hey, Nancy, I got to say, if you listen to this testimony and believe half of it, you absolutely hate Diddy.
Yeah, I think everybody hates Diddy.
I'm really interested in this. How would you feel if this jury comes back in 45 minutes, guilty on all counts? Because I remember with O.J. Simpson when they came back in 2 hours, and it was like, you didn't really evaluate the evidence. If they come back and convict him, but they just do it because they hate him, is that a satisfying verdict?
I've had a verdict come back in 45 minutes before. I think what you're doing right now is projecting, because what we've heard from the stand makes a lot of people hate Sean Combs for what multiple witnesses say he did to Cassie Ventura, he did to Mia, he did to Capricorn Clark, and it goes on and on and on. The beatings, the rapes, the sodomies, the this, the that. Yes, he's the object of hate. But if that jury turns it around in an hour, no, I would not be concerned, because they have heard this evidence from day one. It's been sifting down. They've been percolating. And what I think the state is doing right now, earlier you said they were, quote, all over the place with their witnesses. I disagree. They are building, and what they're building on is Cassie Ventura's testimony. Every single witness is corroborating
Cassie's testimony
her
is
fear,
garbage.
their fear, the fact that employees did his bidding, even if it was an illegal act, right down to that Molotov, for Pete's sake. Because this week, we heard the defense go cray in the courtroom, papers, chairs, crazy, mistrial. Of course, they never seen Tacopina do this. Miss an objection. They let several questions get in before they went, what? And objected on the fingerprint evidence. It was destroyed conveniently by LAPD. So now the jury's probably thinking, oh my stars, they were all right. He even got to the police and destroyed the evidence in the arson case, the car bombing. I thought that was a big moment in court this week.
Was it a correct moment? Was it a correct moment in court where they made this insinuation without proof?
What is that, a correct moment in court?
Was it appropriate for the prosecution to raise the specter of Diddy destroying this evidence, which, by the way, he may have done it.
Say that.
Well, they insinuated that, Nancy. That was the whole point, that the statute of limitations...
No, they said, what happened to the evidence card?
Right.
And the defense, methinks thou doth protest too much, says Shakespeare, had a big, they nutted up, technical legal term, when the state said, well, what happened to the fingerprint card? It was destroyed by
It's
someone not
crazy.
connected to the arson investigation. Who? I want to know who destroyed it and why did they destroy the fingerprint evidence in a car bomb that Diddy clairvoyantly predicted 3 weeks before. I'm going to bomb his car. And bam, the car gets bombed.
That wasn't a
I wonder
bomb.
who did
No one-
that.
no one said it
and
was
then the
destroyed. They said
fingerprint
they
evidence
lost it. They said they
disappeared
lost
in
it.
the evidence locker.
Right,
Well-
they lost it, but how
They
about
said
this?
it was destroyed.
How about the government trying to keep out the fire department's finding? The LA Fire Department found DNA of a female, okay, that the prosecution try and keep out on that Molotov cocktail. They try to keep out the DNA of a female. So I don't know. I mean, why wouldn't that come in? Why
I don't know
isn't
what
that
you're
relevant?
talking about. It's already come out in
Really?
court that there was
You
female
should have probably
DNA
listened to
on
the
it, but
testimony.
we can't match
So
it
there
to
was-
anybody.
What came out in court was the LA Fire Department found DNA that was a female's DNA, which the prosecution tried to
Yep.
keep out of court, but came into court. Maybe you weren't there for that part, or heard missed that part.
It
But
came
that's
into
something that's
evidence,
certainly interesting. That's
like
the
I just
Molotov
said.
cocktail. That's the Molotov cocktail. That's one of the predicate acts. So I wonder whose DNA and and fingerprints.
Exactly.
apparently
I'm glad you
is also
finally agree
female.
with me. It's an arson, a predicate act to prove RICO.
Yeah, but what they're
Gee, I finally agree with you.
okay,
No,
guys,
no,
that's just
But
not the
that's-
case.
you
You know
don't know
what they were
that.
trying to do there. They were trying
don't
to
know that Diddy
insinuate
got somebody
that
to
this
do
was
it.
all at the behest of Diddy, that whoever this woman was
Right.
was somebody
Right.
who worked for Diddy. But they
Right.
couldn't
Maybe it
prove
was.
We don't know
But maybe
that.
it wasn't.
Maybe it was.
Who else would destroy
I'm
the
not even
evidence?
worried about it.
Oh, let's get
You know
him
what?
into federal
Yeah,
prison.
maybe it was.
I
Let's-
sorted
let's just
through it
get him
all.
into
He's
federal
already
prison.
tried to bribe one police officer.
I took an hour to sort through all that, and I thought, why am I wasting my time? It's like a teaspoon from the dirty fire hose. There, can I just show you how many notes I have to take on this? Because I can't keep track of the times that I said, oh, dang, that's a predicate act of RICO, and that's corroborated by 4 witnesses beforehand. Like,
Ashley,
I
can I ask
cannot
you a
keep
question?
track of these offenses.
Ashley, let me ask you. You know, I think the world of you. Were you, because you talked before about the reaction you had to that testimony, and I couldn't imagine.
Which
But were
one?
you-
Wait, you got to specify which one. I've had tears for several of them.
Mia's. But hold on. Were you there? Did you hear it in person?
I've been following it moment by
No, I
moment
know.
on live feeds by 3 different reporters with 3 different perspectives.
Okay, that's well, listen. I'm
I
not
can't be on
criticizing you. I'm
television
not-
right now if
Ashley,
I'm in the
not-
courtroom with you.
I understand. I'm not criticizing you, but you understand there's a difference. In federal court, there's no camera, so you have to either be in the courtroom or in the overflow courtroom to actually see the witnesses. So getting someone else's sort of interpretation via
3
computer,
different interpretations, Joe. 3, not just someone
No,
else's. 3
Ashley,
different.
I'm not faulting you. It's fine. It's how we have to do it here. We're in federal court.
I'm just saying I'm
faulted
getting
it.
3 witnesses,
If you
not
told
1.
If you told me you were reduced to tears because you saw that, that would mean a lot to me because I know you. It's just it means a little more less to me that you were reading someone's interpretation. That's all I'm saying. It's not a criticism.
3
of
different
you.
people's interpretations, and I think it was such pile on. I keep saying the dirty fire hose, Joe.
That's a good-
My God, I barely cried
that's a
when I
fair
was
point.
at war, but the amount of just awful behavior
No,
against these
look,
kids that
he's
seemed to
being-
be so meek. That's what
Ashley, you
upset me.
said
They felt like they were prey to the predator, and they were so scared to do anything about it. And by the way, can I just say, you used to have a client named Donald Trump. Donald Trump attacked Ted Cruz, destroyed his wife and destroyed his own father, and Ted Cruz went crawling back to Donald Trump, and so did Marco
did.
Rubio. Little
That's
Marco,
different.
little Marco.
That's not a
And they went
RICO.
crawling back to
Donald
Donald
Trump
Trump. So
didn't sexually
don't
assault Ted
ask,
Cruz,
but
right? It's a little
don't
different.
ask why people take it
Well, 'cause he's
constantly
looking
and
for his
crawl
political
back to the
career.
abuser.
That's why Ted Cruz
That's
did
why
that.
they crawl back to the abuser. It's
Little
their
different.
job. It's their livelihood.
It's a lot different.
gonna get
Oh
into
my
that.
gosh. Oh my god. Y'all, a lot of things being conflated here, but I do get the point in this that testimony and a lot of this testimony, there's some questions that need to be answered. And Harvey's saying, are they doing a good job? Is the state doing a good job of proving that? Because if they're jumping around the testimony and they're leaving these open loops, like he mentioned in several of the other episodes, then is that beyond a reasonable doubt? Might be enough for the jury. I don't know. We have to wait and see. Y'all tell me what you think.